Hello everyone, welcome back. I hope your day is going great. I selected this picture to post behind me as I introduce this video. It is taken in Calgary. This is the Peace Bridge crossing the Bow River in Calgary, and it's posted by Amanda in our I Choose Canada group. And I have to put my foot down. It's time to call out some of our leaders, certain provincial leaders and some ex-provincial leaders and other politicians in Canada, behaving like children, behaving like spoiled little brats. It's really pathetic. We as Canadians should demand more from our leaders, and I'm interested in your comments and your reaction. Now, the story starts October 1st here, reported on CTV News. Alberta re-enters pipeline arena, plans to propose new oil pipeline to BC coast. And the story reports that Premier Daniel Smith says Alberta is committing $14 million to a West Coast oil pipeline do-over that hinges on First Nations getting on board early and Ottawa reversing a tanker ban that would make such a project unworkable on the northern BC coast. She said, "What stands before us right now is a once-in-a-generation opportunity to unlock our wealth and resources and become a world-leading energy superpower." She also then added, "There are billions of people around the world living in energy poverty who demand a higher standard of living. This is not just a question of Alberta's energy, it's a global moral imperative." Because everyone knows if we build another pipeline and Alberta can increase its production of oil, then world poverty will end. What she's talking about is basically reviving the idea of a Northern Gateway pipeline, and this was a map in the past. The project was considered in the past and did not proceed. It would basically tie in oil from Edmonton, heavy oil, and ship it to the West Coast. And if we just set the rhetoric aside and just forget this idea that a new pipeline will solve the world poverty issue, this is a legitimate course of action for the province of Alberta, and Premier Daniel Smith has committed some funds. And Daniel Smith realizes that at this stage, this project is not ready to be submitted as a possible nation-building project to get put on the list. It needs more front-end work, and the main thing is to attract a potential private company that's willing to spend the money to do this. Okay, so the announcement has been made. Daniel Smith wants us to build another pipeline, and she wants to solve the... She says that it's crucial and that we have the moral authority to help eliminate world poverty with this project. But now the children chime in, like this guy over here, who immediately, right after the announcement, reported here on the Tyee October 2nd, the next day, as Smith pushes new pipeline plan, Eby, the Premier of British Columbia, says, "No way." Well, that's a bit of an inflammatory rhetoric headline. Let me read you exactly what he said. "When I said, let's cross that bridge when we get to it, we'll see what the Premier comes up with, I'm being polite," Eby said. "Don't mistake my politeness for weakness on protecting our economy and our coast." He goes on to say that Daniel Smith called him in advance of making an announcement, and he says, "I asked two very straightforward questions," he said. "Is there a private company advancing this proposal? The answer is no. Is there any private money advancing this proposal? The answer is no." The fact that there is not a private proponent, despite obviously huge willingness on the part of Alberta to subsidize this using tax dollars, should tell you everything you need to know about the reality of this project, which is that it is not a real project. Now, I have to point out here that the Premier of BC really didn't have to make any comment at this time. A polite response or a Team Canada response would have been something like, "Well, let's see how this goes. Let's see if the Premier of Alberta can attract some private money to get this project going. Good luck to her." But instead, he made a statement which is more designed as politicking to the people of British Columbia rather than working with another province. So, of course, Scott Moe, the Premier of Saskatchewan, had to jump in. And he said, "There is no BC coast, it's Canada's coast." Well done, Mo. That's a really good strategy. That'll really get the people of BC on side. What are you, 6 years old? There is no BC coast, it's Canada's coast. How would you react if the Premier of another province said, "Hey, that oil that's coming out of Saskatchewan, that's not Saskatchewan's oil, that's Canada's oil"? Or maybe you can phone the Premier of Quebec and say, "Hey, that hydro that you're selling, that's not Quebec's hydro, that's Canada's hydro." In what world do you think that comments like this are helpful at all? But it doesn't end here. Former Alberta Premier Jason Kenney calls BC's Eby bigger threat than separatists over pipeline stance. And he posts on X, and I'm just going to read you the beginning here because it was about a page and a half of escalation. David Eby is objectively a much bigger threat to Confederation and the rule of law than Alberta separatists. Hardcore Alberta separatists are a tiny minority of the population. Their quote-unquote movement is made up largely of grifters and cranks. They just won 1% of the vote in the last by-election, blah, 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 blah. This is the same conservative who was shocked and horrified when Justin Trudeau referred to anti-vaxxers as a fringe minority with unacceptable views. That was horrifying and divisive. But if you're a member of a separatist movement in Canada, you're a tiny minority made up largely of grifters and cranks. And of course, Pierre Poilievre had to jump in. He was just so jealous that everyone else was getting to insult each other and he didn't have part of the action. And so he jumped in and said that Carney needs to get out of the way to get the pipelines built in Canada. He didn't have anything to say about Eby or Moe or Danielle Smith. It's Carney's fault. He's in the way. And that's hilarious because Danielle Smith, just a few days before she made this announcement that she wants to get this new pipeline going, this was just on September 30th, she blamed Ottawa, Mark Carney, for Imperial Oil job cuts. Imperial Oil is cutting jobs around the world, and that's going to affect some employees in Calgary. And it must be Mark Carney's fault that they're doing that. And so here we are. All that's happened is that the Alberta government has said that it's going to spend a little bit of money to try and promote a nation-building project that it's interested in promoting. And all hell's broken loose. And although I'm laughing, I guess, because the reactions are just ridiculous. I have to say that as a Canadian, as a voter, as a part owner of this country, shame on all of you. We deserve better than that. You guys are just like a bunch of children. What's wrong with you? Are you all like 11 years old? These people are the people that we elected to represent us, to work together, to get things done. And we seem to have one serious guy that's working who actually passed a law so that we could have this nation building project list so that we can fast track some of these projects. And rather than work together, these premiers are just running in front of a camera as fast as they can to just insult each other and exchange insults and rhetoric. We should expect more from our representatives. And if I had almighty power, I would just snap and they would all be wearing diapers, which is really what they should be wearing, and I'd put them all in a playpen, and I'd say, now learn to play nicely together. And you're not going to get any dinner until you all start playing nicely. Share the building blocks and stop being dumbasses. Now, I never said that my parenting techniques would be used as a model for our nation, but you get my point. Let me wrap this video up with really the only important information that you have to absorb here. Everything that we just talked about is just stupid politicians politicking. They should grow up. But really, the most important thing here is displayed in the graph behind me. This is the price of crude oil, West Texas Intermediate, over the past 5 years. It's been on a steady decline. 5 years ago, the price was $110. And just recently, as I record this video, the price is $60, just a little bit above $60. That's West Texas Intermediate. Of course, Alberta Select Crude trades at a discount to that. That's what they call the differential. It trades anywhere between $10 and $15 lower than West Texas Intermediate. So Alberta Crude now is trading maybe under $50. And I can tell you with a great degree of confidence that with $48 Alberta oil price, it's going to be very hard to get any private company willing to invest the 20 or 25 or $30 billion in investment to build a major pipeline across the Rocky Mountains. In order for a company to commit to that, they would have to believe that they could invest that money, let's call it $25 billion, and they have to have a clear vision that they would recoup their $25 billion investment and make a profit by charging a transportation fee on the product that moves through that pipeline. And they would have to have a clear vision that there would be an extra 1 million barrels of production from Alberta to fill that pipeline. Because right now, there isn't. It's not about just removing the tanker ban for the northwest coast of British Columbia or getting the First Nations on side or finding someone who's stupid enough to invest $25 billion It's also about finding a commitment from a company to do a major oil sands expansion project in Alberta. And I talked a lot about this, a particular issue, in a video that's specifically about pipelines. I'll link it here in the top right corner of the screen. What it takes to build a new pipeline in Canada. It's an interesting history as well. It explains why we are in the situation we are in and why for the first 20, 25 years of our oil business's history did we build all our infrastructure to the United States. There's a reason for that. It's a political reason. It has to do with NAFTA, and it has a lot to do with Mr. Brian Mulroney. If you want to watch that video, click the link up here. And let me just add here that it's not just a few layoffs in Calgary that are happening that Daniel Smith blamed Mark Carney for. This is a worldwide phenomenon, a worldwide issue. Headline here in Reuters, U.S. drillers cut oil and gas rigs for 12th time in 13 weeks, even though the United States elected one of the most pro-oil presidents that they ever have, who said during his campaign, we're going to drill, baby, drill. Do you remember that? Well, that's not happening because it's not governments that drill for oil, it's oil companies. And because of very low oil prices that I showed you in the graph just earlier, companies around the world are decreasing the amount of capital expenditures they're making. They're drilling less. And the movement of oil prices is a very delicate balance between supply and demand on any given day on Earth. And the swing producers, the producers that can affect the change in oil prices or manipulate oil prices the most, are OPEC, led by Saudi Arabia. And Saudi Arabia is doing a fantastic job of targeting its production level so that they keep supply just at the point where oil prices are high enough so they can make a decent profit, but low enough so that the rest of the world has a hard time justifying more expenditures. Saudi Arabia is by far the lowest cost producer. They can produce oil at single digit numbers, $5 a barrel, and it's very high quality. And basically, you can consider their supply almost infinite. They can just turn a tap and increase or decrease supply as they wish. And they wish to protect their market share, and they're keeping prices exactly where they want them. It has nothing to do with Mark Carney screwing Alberta, and it has nothing to do with Donald Trump's wishes to drill, baby, drill. This is the oil market forces in action. So I hope I gave you some interesting information to think about in this video, but the question I want to ask you to leave your comment in the comment section is, shouldn't we expect more from our elected leaders? What's wrong with these politicians bickering like children? I thought we were supposed to be Team Canada and we were supposed to be seriously working together to get things done. I think all of them that were exchanging insults should be ashamed of themselves. Whether you agree with the project or not, that's not the point. Market forces will dictate whether she's able to get this thing going, whether she's able to attract investment to even consider building it. They should all do their jobs and stop screwing around. That's my perspective. I'm interested in your comments. Thanks for watching the video, everyone. I hope you enjoyed it. Subscribe to the channel if you are. If you want to support my work on a monthly basis, consider becoming a channel member. I would really appreciate it. Have a fantastic rest of your day, and I'll catch you all on the next one.